Hello, happy Monday. I am so sorry I'm late joining you. I'm having all kinds of technical issues. I do not know why. I guess that's what happens when you take a week off. But welcome back to the Monday Minute. My name is Rita Ernst. I'm the author of the book Show a Positive and Culture Impact. And today I want to talk about psychological safety in the workplace. It is Suicide Prevention Month, and this particularly is a week across the globe where we pay attention to suicide prevention. And I think that makes this an important time to talk about this topic of psychological safety, which comes from Dr. Amy Edmondson's work. And for those of you that are joining me live, please feel free to jump in the comments, say hello. Hopefully you are hearing me, and whatever miking issues I've been able to fix. And post any questions or comments that you have about psychological safety. But let me tell you a little bit about Amy Edmondson's work. So she was studying teams and communication, and what really made for the highest performing teams in a hospital setting. And what her thesis was is that the highest performing teams would make the fewest number of mistakes. And surprisingly, that is not what she found. What she actually found was the inverse of that the highest performing teams made the most mistakes, and yet they were still the highest performing teams. Now, why would that be? And this is where she came up with the idea and the thesis of psychological safety that we all now know, which is when people feel like there is no risk in they can be innovative, they can be creative, they can try new things, that those teams actually outperform because they have that ability to push themselves and know that they're not going to get punished for that. And this is what psychological safety is all about. And if you go into the comments, please, Dr. Timothy Clark, I've dropped his information. He's wrote a book about this. He has this wonderful graphic that differentiates the different levels of psychological safety that are possible in the workplace. So it is more than just people feeling welcome and belonging. Inclusion is only the base level. It's only the foundational piece of psychological safety. And it doesn't get you all that innovation and creativity. You have to actually work through all the layers. He's written a book about this that I would highly recommend. But we only get a few minutes in the Monday Minute. So I want to give you, what do I have here? 5 tips. 5 tips around how you can create psychological safety in your organization and workplace. And I wrote them down because I wanted to make sure that I really remembered them and I wasn't struggling to share them. And I'm so glad now that I did, that I'm having some equipment issues. So here we go. I've got 5 things that are replacements. So first I'm going to give you what we would normally say, and then I'm going to give you the replacement thing. So what we would normally say when things go awry is what went wrong. That would be our focus. That would be the whole intention. We may not use those exact words, but our whole focus would be on what went wrong and trying to uncover what went wrong. Instead, to create psychological safety, we are going to first lead with and replace that with this. What did you learn? What did you learn? If we can step back from deconstructing, trying to figure out all the problems that led up to something and just start with, what did you learn? So things went awry. Things did not go the way we wanted. But what learning? Let's focus on gleaning learning first. When we make learning the priority by talking about that first, then there's a place where we might go back and want to understand more about, okay, so let's uncover how this came to be. But now we have softened that threat of getting blamed and getting punished by focusing first on the most important thing that we want to take out of every failure, and that is what we learn. Number 2, replace "do you agree" with what might we be missing? Or something like, what else should we be considering? So instead of focusing on agreement right away, make and invite conversations that push the thinking, that invite other voices and other perspectives. You can always decide that, we've considered that, but we don't need to be concerned with that, and we're going to stay with where we were before. But often we are so quick to fear our ability to manage disagreement that we try to push it away. And I'm saying, no, invite it in, embrace it. If you want psychological safety, then you want people to be able to feel like they can put risky ideas and risky thoughts and disagreement out there without it threatening the cohesion of the group. And this is the way that you do it. So instead of asking about agreement, invite people to bring those outsider thoughts into the conversation and challenge the thinking that's already in the room. Number 3, instead of saying some version of "you're wrong, I disagree with you," get curious. I say all the time, curiosity could cure the world, but most definitely it is healing for relationships. So instead of assuming somebody's wrong or getting fixated on all the reasons why you think they are wrong, Shirzad Sharman in his positive intelligence training says that everybody has got something 10% right in what they're saying. There's always 10% of something that is right in whatever is being shared with you. So get curious and uncover it. Look for places where you have alignment in thinking through your curiosity so that you can build a bridge of understanding together instead of having somebody feel dismissed. Have them know that it's okay that they can share a differing point of view, and that is a way that we can still find cohesion together. Number 4, instead of asking or any version of implying who's at fault here, who's responsible for this, it sounds like, who are we going to put in the hangman's noose? And nobody wants to be in the hangman's noose, right? Nobody wants that. So instead of asking some version of a question that's looking for who are we going to blame for this, I want you to ask instead, as I read in the dark, how do we move forward from here? How do we move forward from here? Such a better question than who's at fault. Does it really matter who's at fault? I think often the person who is at fault knows they're at fault and feels a lot of guilt about that and doesn't want to feel like they are being scorned in front of their peers. I mean, we all need that safety of knowing that we can make mistakes and that we are not going to lose face in doing that. So instead of starting with who's at fault and maybe letting that go altogether, it's just, okay, so here's where we are. How are we going to move forward from here? Because that's where resiliency comes. The faster we move through to how do we move forward from here, the quicker we can actually get to things that really matter. So that's number 4. And a last tip for you, instead of saying, what's the problem? And looking for what's the problem and focusing our intention on what is the problem here, I want you to lean into that idea of celebrating and start with focus first. There might be problems that we need to address, but before we get into the problems, let's take a moment and recognize what progress have we already made. And let's get the motivation and the juiciness of celebration, that knowing that we are making progress. We are often so quick to want to get into the task, figure out what the problems are so that we can deal with them. But what we miss is the need that we have. We have this need as human beings to feel good about what we're doing and the contribution that we make, in a way that we can make that present and keep that present for people is when we ask that question. Right? So what progress are we making that we can talk about and that we can celebrate and that we can acknowledge together? So there's your 5 replacements. Replace what went wrong with what did you learn? Replace do you agree with what might we be missing or what else do we need to think about? Replace any version of you're wrong with I'm curious, tell me more so I can understand what you're saying. Who's at fault? We're going to replace with how do we move forward? And what's the problem? We're going to replace with what's the progress. I hope you find this Monday Minute beneficial to you. In psychological safety is something you need to intentionally build. I highly recommend that you read the book and that you follow Tim on LinkedIn and see all the great stuff that he is posting. But it's you, right? You have all this autonomy. You are showing up positive for yourself and your team, and you can take these small replacement steps in your language, just like we do with all of our other positive, show up positive language. And that is going to help you to make certain that you are inviting more psychological safety into the team for you and others. And if you need some help with that, let me know. We can have a little conversation offline. I'd love to give you more of the great learning tips that I have found. Thank you so much for joining me for the Monday Minute. I know I always say I'll see you next Monday. It's not a holiday, so I will definitely see you back here next Monday at 11:45. And thank you for hanging in with me while I was a little late getting to the party. And I hope you have a fabulous day. Bye.